And we're at 25 days till my nephew's wedding in Porto, Portugal. So we are counting down, trying to get ready. I think, oh gosh, this week we talked about tourist scams. We talked about going to Porto. We talked about, uh, some of these kinds of things going on. And so one of the things near and dear to my heart, and I just had to do some research on this, is getting sick. So I had this horrific trip to Ecuador for a conference last year. I mean, it was in Quito, Ecuador, and the city was beautiful. The people were wonderful. Everything was wonderful. But I got so sick. And I got to be honest, I travel a fair amount, kind of for work related stuff. I do about 5 to 7 trips a year. Usually they're 5 to 7 days at a time. Um, about most of those are international, and I have gotten where I've gotten careless. We're generally staying at places that are pretty nice places, and I've gotten where I just sort of assume that everything is going to be fine, and it was not fine. I got an E. coli infection, and I was super duper sick. But I survived it. That's a whole nother story. that's that's a story for another video. I survived it. That's the most important thing. But it occurred to me after that. It's like, you have to be more cautious. You can't just assume that everything's going to be okay. So I got on and I asked, actually, not Google this time. I asked Copilot. I like, Copilot, tell me about, food, water, sanitation, getting sick, all those kinds of things in Porto, Portugal. What do I need to worry about? And so in general, it was a very good report. But I thought we would kind of go over this a little bit. So the main thing I think is food and water. I mean, I think those are generally the two biggest things you have to worry about. And so I'll just read kind of what Copilot told me. And these are kind of generally good ideas anyway when you're traveling, abroad. So here you go. Water. Tap water in Porto is safe to drink. In fact, they say that it has really, really high water purification standards for their water treatment. So they said you are fine to drink water from the tap in Portugal, or in Porto, Portugal. I don't know that I can say that everywhere in Portugal, but in Porto, Portugal, they say tap water is fine. So, but if you want to be extra careful, they say you can get bottled water. And so lots of times when I'm traveling, I'll get like carbonated water, agua con gas. And one of the reasons I kind of do that is that I know it's bottled. If it's agua con gas, I know it's bottled. And generally, it's not going to, they can't, like, I'm not saying they do this in Portugal, but there are places where they'll take a bottle and they refill it from the tap. And then they close it, but they're the ones who open it, so you can't tell that the seal has already been broken, and they hand it to you, and you're actually drinking tap water. So with agua con gas, they can't really do that, and so with carbonated water. So lots of times I'll get carbonated water, and that way I know that it is actually bottled water, that it was just opened. But um, but you can get bottled water if you want to be careful. Number two, ice. All right. So again, the ice cubes are usually made from tap water. And the tap water is considered to be safe in Porto. So probably no worries there at all. Probably in Porto, you just don't have to worry about that. But if you are trying to watch the water and you don't really want to drink the tap water, just know that the ice cubes, if you're going to get ice, they are probably made with that. And that is, again, I'm told everything in Porto is fine, but I had a cousin, he was actually my father's cousin, who nearly died when he got really bad hepatitis. He was on a fishing trip in Mexico. He'd been very careful. He was a medical professional, so he understood all of that stuff. And he had gone fishing, and he'd been very, very careful about all that stuff. But the ice that they used when they went fishing, both for their fish and for their drinks, was made with water from the tap. And so he got very, very sick. He got a very bad hepatitis infection. So, word to the wise, if you're traveling somewhere and you're not really sure about their tap water, you probably don't want anything with ice in it either. So, all right. Number 3, food. All right. So here's the thing with food. And I'll just read what they say and then I'll make my comments. Stick to busy, well-reviewed restaurants. They tend to have higher turnover, meaning fresher ingredients. So one of the things they're saying there is you you don't really just want to go to a hole in the wall. They may not, especially. I guess the point of this is that the food may have been sitting for a while. It may not have been kept up to the right temperature or any of those things. And so it's like if you go to a very busy, well reviewed restaurant, the chances of you having any problems with that are less. Now, one thing that I've learned, and it was the opposite really of what I expected, and that was, when I was first kind of starting doing international travel, I would think, oh well, you get the fruits and vegetables and those kinds of things, that are fresh and you don't have to worry about it. And that is wrong. And the reason is because lots of those things, some of those things like that are like, especially like lettuce and vegetables and things like that, the fertilizer and things like that, there's no telling what they use to fertilize that. And if they didn't clean it well after they did that, you can get sick from the fresh produce. So some of the exceptions to that, of course, might be if it's something that needs to be peeled. So like if you got a banana, maybe the banana didn't have whatever, but if you're peeling the peel off of the banana, well, then you don't really have to worry so much about it. Those kinds of things. But just like lettuce, vegetables, things like that, those are places where people can get hepatitis or E. coli or things like that just because they aren't cleaned well enough. And the other thing is like meats and fish and poultry and all those things. You want all of that stuff well done. You don't want to be eating anything raw. You don't want to, you want to make sure. And if that's done, then those generally are pretty safe. So it's not always what you think it's going to be. You think about healthy eating, fruits and vegetables, that's really good for you, but maybe not necessarily when you are traveling. Street food. All right, so this is kind of like a subset of food, and so here's what they say. Porto doesn't have a huge street food culture, but if you try it, make sure that it is hot and freshly prepared. And that again is something about, hey, if it's been sitting in something all day without refrigeration or without being hot enough or something like that, then you may have something that could go bad and you could get sick from. So you do want to make sure it is fresh and hot if you're going to do the street food, but maybe the street food is a little bit risky. Raw food. So we're kind of keep going down. Avoid raw or undercooked, especially seafood. Be cautious with salads that may have been washed in tap water. So kind of the same thing. We mentioned that a little bit ago, but raw, undercooked food, that is where you can kind of get into a danger zone. And the last thing is hand hygiene. Wash your hands frequently, carry hand sanitizer, things like that, just kind of being clean. Because if you're out and about and you're, traveling around and you can be in less than sanitary situations and maybe not even realize it. So it's just a good idea. Wash your hands real well before you eat and make sure that you're having good sanitation. And so those are some rules for you to. Another thing, and this was not on here, but kind of going back to the water and those kinds of things. Lots of times when I would travel, especially the first day or so, until I had a better feel for what things were like there, I would get like canned drinks. So I would get like uh, Diet Cokes, or maybe if you drink alcohol, a beer or wine or things like that, where it's being opened, whatever, and that way that it has been sealed and that you're not getting anything that is from tap or whatever. But that's just kind of a thing. If you don't know, if you're not clear, if you're not sure, canned drink or bottled drink that has not been opened might be a safe option. So that's it for day, what do we say it is, 25? 25 days down. If you're enjoying this, if you're having fun, if you think this is kind of cool to share, or if you're going to Porto and you want somebody to know about this, maybe you can share this, or maybe give me a like on the video, maybe even subscribe and follow along on our 50-day challenges. And I have a few playlists. I have a playlist for this. You can go back and check the other ones. I have a couple of previous 50-day challenges we've done, 50 days of fitness, which was just kind of getting myself kind of back into shape a little bit, working on that from ground zero to hero. And 50 days of trash, which was a pretty popular one. I think everybody likes to get rid of trash. But you might follow along, and maybe I'll see you tomorrow for, what is it? I think day 24. Have a great day, and thanks for watching. Take care.